When you have a living legend, it's nice to sit with them to give them the comfort of a friend in Congress. Today, I want to introduce a young 95-year-old woman, Fumiko Hayashida, who is a constituent of mine, and I very much appreciate her making this trip to come talk to us.
My name is Fumiko Hayashida. I am 95-year-old and the oldest living survivor of the first group of Japanese American taken internment camp, World War II.
In 1942, Fumiko Hayashida, a 31-year-old pregnant mother of two, was an ordinary woman living in extraordinary times. She was one of 227 Japanese-American residents of Bainbridge Island, Washington, who were exiled from their homes and incarcerated at the Manzanar concentration camp in California. This photograph, taken of her and her 13-month-old daughter, Natalie, would eventually become a lasting symbol of the internment experience. Born on Bainbridge Island in 1911 to Japanese immigrant parents, Fumiko Nishinaka grew up amidst a close-knit family of strawberry farmers who embraced life in America. They, like many other Japanese immigrants, worked hard, established roots, and prospered. By the time Fumiko married her husband, Saburo Hayashida, in 1938, he and his two brothers owned the largest strawberry farm on the island. Life for Fumiko and her husband was full of hope and promise. But in the spring of 1942, 3 months after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community changed forever when the U.S. government ordered them to leave the island. They were given 1 week to settle all their affairs. On Monday, March 30th, 1942, the entire Bainbridge Island Japanese American community assembled at the Eagledale ferry dock. Under armed military escort, they were taken away. With a bumper strawberry crop expected in 2 months, they did not know if they would ever see their homes, their friends, or their farms again.
I had 2 children, 2.5 and 13 months old daughter, and another one on the way. And I was concerned with children more than ourselves. We didn't know how long or where we're going. I was raised on the island. First time I go out of the state, and first train ride, but we were worried about children. They were all wearing diapers, and we could only carry what we could carry. Suitcase was full of diapers and children's clothes. And we just wore the best clothes we have.
Bainbridge Islanders were sent to the Manzanar concentration camp in California's high desert. Surrounded by sagebrush, barbed wire, and armed soldiers in guard towers, Japanese Americans endured life in makeshift barracks that were freezing in the winter and sweltering in the summer.
April 1st, we landed in California. It was hot, and the barracks were not ready. They were still hammering.
5 months after arriving in Manzanar, Fumiko gave birth to her third child, Leonard.
They were still working on the clinic. I had a baby in the army cot. At middle of the night, we called the army truck, and we were stopped on the way to the hospital or the clinic by police. We were wondering where we were going.
While Bainbridge Islanders were sent to California, the Seattle Japanese American community was sent to the Minidoka concentration camp in Idaho. After about 1 year in Manzanar, most of the Bainbridge Islanders relocated to Minidoka to be closer to relatives and friends.
My sister was in Minidoka. She was in Minidoka with 5 children. So we moved from Manzanar to help her.
While the conditions at Manzanar were miserable, Fumiko found the climate at Minidoka was even worse.
Manzanar was hot and dusty, but when you moved to Minidoka, it was altogether different. Muddy and snow and ice.
With no running water, 1 electric light bulb, straw mattresses, and 1 blanket each, Fumiko, her husband, and their 3 small children lived in a 1-room wooden barrack separated from their neighbors with little more than tar paper. Trying to maintain a normal family life was all but impossible. Between 1942 and 1945, Minidoka constituted the 7th largest city in Idaho with a population of close to 9,500. In August 1945, Fumiko and her family returned to Bainbridge Island, but the farm life they had before the war was gone.
We had tractor and all that, horses and dog and chickens, turkey, regular farm. But it's all gone. By the time we came home, of course, it was hard.
It was too late in the year to plant berries. Fumiko's husband found work elsewhere, and eventually they moved off the island. For over 45 years, Fumiko, like many in the Japanese American community, did not talk publicly about the painful experience in the camps. But in 1990, the photograph became the centerpiece for a traveling exhibit on the history of Japanese American women. As the iconic photograph toured the country, Fumiko started to recount her internment experience. In 2008, at the age of 97, Fumiko and her daughter Natalie boarded a bus near Seattle for the 12-hour ride to Minidoka, now a National Historic Monument. They, along with over 200 others, traveled as part of an annual pilgrimage to the former internment site, one of several pilgrimages in the country, organized by former internees and their descendants. The long journey gave the riders the opportunity to interview each other and discover the various reasons that had brought them together. For many, the purpose of the trip was to honor those who were incarcerated and to renew the pledge that this history would never be forgotten nor repeated. For others, it was also closure on 3 years of imprisonment during World War II. For some, it was to learn from the past. For Fumiko and her daughter Natalie, it would be the first time that they would be back in the camp together in 63 years. They finally arrived in Twin Falls, Idaho. Tomorrow, they would visit Minidoka.
We made it. Okay, come on.
First stop is the Idaho Ranch and Farm Museum, which has a display of one of the barracks from Minidoka.
We hope this will be a monument for all of us to remember what happened. We're not proud of what happened, but it happened, and so it's part of our history. We want this to remind us to never let anything like that happen again. And there's a monument to honor those people who came here giving up everything they had, even though they were United States citizens.
This is a chance for Natalie, a toddler in the camp, to understand what her mother experienced.
Did we have 4 or just 3?
I don't know. I think 3, huh?
You had 3? Did you have a crib for Leonard?
Carpenter department, men folks made it one for.
Made a crib for Leonard? Did he sleep in it all the 3 years we
Yeah.
were here, 3.5 years? But I would think that by the time we were ready to leave, he was too large for a crib. Or did he stay in the crib?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The buses then drove through the camp itself. Almost nothing is left to remind visitors of the thousands of Japanese Americans who had been forced from their homes, who had lived in this camp of 600 buildings on 33,000 acres. No one passing by would have any idea of what had gone on here during World War II. At the end of the journey, those on the pilgrimage attached origami dragonflies to a model of a guard tower. In Japanese mythology, the dragonfly represents strength, courage, and happiness. Many of the visitors, like Fumiko, hope their efforts to keep this history alive will help the National Park Service create an interpretive center and memorial to honor the past residents and to educate future generations about what took place on this land. But construction has begun elsewhere. Fumiko Hayashida's testimony before a congressional committee in Washington, D.C. helped pass a bill which designated that a memorial on Bainbridge Island become a unit of the Minidoka National Internment Site. Located at the base of the former ferry dock, the exact site where the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community was exiled from the island in 1942, it is called Nidoto Nayoni, which means let it not happen again. In the first stage, volunteer timber framers from the United States and Canada built a pavilion and garden gate. Soon, a memorial wall with the names of those exiled from the island will be finished. An interpretive center is planned. The memorial will honor and commemorate the Bainbridge Island Japanese American community's strength and perseverance. A 1942 photograph, an accident of history, became an iconic symbol of the inhumanity of the internment. Today, Fumiko Hayashida, the woman behind the symbol, continues to speak out with courage and tenacity to ensure that history will not be forgotten. The Bainbridge Island Memorial she champions will stand as a tribute to the powerful capacity of humans and the nation to heal, to forgive, and to care for one another.